For anyone who loves the outdoors in Colorado Springs, Ring the Peak isn't just a trail, it's a vision. It's a connected loop around Pikes Peak that links our communities, our open spaces, and our iconic landscapes like never before. On the next Paddle the Springs, we're talking about a huge win for our region. A local organization has just announced a $2.5 million grant to help move Ring the Peak to completion. Welcome and roll on in to the Paddle the Springs podcast, where we banter about all things biking in Colorado Springs and the Pikes Peak region. I'm your host, Torie Giffin, owner of the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort and self-appointed ambassador for cycling in the Springs. And what I don't know about biking in this area, my friends do. And here are today's guests. We have Connor Borkowski. He is the Special Projects Coordinator for the Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance, or PPORA is a lot more simple. And that's how we call it locally. Welcome, Connor.
Thank you for having me.
ER, I know that now.
Yeah.
I bet you get that a lot.
Yeah, for sure. And it's my middle name, so I get a whole lot of other names too.
Okay.
Yeah.
In front or behind your back? No, I'm kidding. Just teasing. We could cut that. And Nic Ponsor. Nic Ponsor is a veteran of the cycling industry and special council advisor to Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance. Welcome, Nic, my good buddy.
Oh, thanks for having me again. Yeah.
It's good to have you back on the show. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, you know, as one of my original investors in the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort, and thank you so much for helping me purchase my dream. It will be 10 years this summer.
That's exciting.
That we're celebrating our anniversary, and you helped make that all happen. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That vision and part of my business plan came from things that I was seeing in Colorado Springs and just moving the needle as a bicycle-friendly destination, the connectivity of our trails and things like that. But then there was this golden nugget that I heard then Governor Hickenlooper say, and that was in 2016, that he had his 16 projects that he was going to see through to completion. And one of those was Ring the Peak. And so the concept of opening a bicycle resort at the base of Pikes Peak, I mean, literally just minutes away from the entrance, became like really big. Like I've ridden up and down Pikes Peak. I know that you can mountain bike down the plummet, but the idea that we would have this 63-mile connected or, metric century connected loop around the base of Pikes Peak, I knew that was going to be big for our community. And if he could make that happen, that was going to be huge.
Right.
And I haven't heard, it's 10 years and I haven't heard much. I've heard that, I've heard about, that we have a lot of properties that, with the stakeholders that we have to, get involved in this conversation. A lot of people want it, but there's still a lot of work to do. And I didn't know who was doing that work. And then I started hearing about some of the efforts of the Pikes Peak Outdoor Recreation Alliance and like not just promoting outdoor activities in the Pikes Peak region, but advocating for our open spaces and expanding those. And then mic drop. What was it? Just like last month, they made the announcement that we got $2.5 million.
Mm-hmm.
And it could be up to $10 million, if I understand correctly, over the next 3, 6, 9, 12 years, maybe, or 10 years. Could be.
Maybe, yeah. I think so.
To actually do this project.
To do this project is, there's a lot more investment that needs to come, but this is a great start, a lot of good momentum to build. And to kind of throw in there on the history too of like, a lot of momentum has already been built by a lot of our partner organizations, Trails and Open Space Coalition, MedWheel. Like a lot of people have done a lot of great work to get us to this point, and now it's a pretty big honor for PPORA to be the next kind of big step in the right direction. So
where did this money come from, and what is the idea behind it?
Yeah, this in Colorado we have this regional partnership initiative, which was started 4 or 5 years ago, and it really was a way for the state, so Colorado Parks and Wildlife, to figure out what the local initiatives and priorities are across the state. So they've been working on trying to build regional partnerships across the state. PPORA is kind of the host of the one here in Colorado Springs, El Paso, Teller, and Fremont County. And that program has always kind of had some kind of funding. And this year was kind of the big announcement from GOCO, or last year was the big announcement from GOCO of we're committing basically $10 million every year for the next 5 years to regional partnerships to complete their vision plans and really have some support beyond just let's convene regional partnerships, but how do we actually get this work done? And so ours was one of the first to be in that kind of big funding pool, and that was $2.5 million, which was kind of the upper limit of what we could ask for. And we're pretty grateful that we got all that for our region. So
who asked for the money?
Yeah, well, yeah. So
that seems
it's a lot of money. There's a lot going on, and that's kind of what a regional partnership is we're bringing together people like PPORA. We get to be kind of the intermediary between the state and all of our partners. So really, truly, a lot of this wouldn't have come together without incredible work. And at the end of the day, a lot more work from partners, because PPORA doesn't have a trail crew. We're not land managers. We don't own any land. So how can we partner with all of these organizations that do have the knowledge, do have the facilities and resources, and how can we build that up to keep making some forward steps?
Now, Nic, as a veteran of the cycling industry and longtime business owner in Colorado Springs, when you heard this, what'd you think? Did you know it was coming?
It was. I think the initial thought was finally. I mean, decades now since I first got to Colorado Springs in 2004. There's been talk about getting Ring the Peak done, and just no momentum whatsoever. It's a complicated process because there's so many stakeholders, so many different land management organizations and private landowners and stuff that you have to deal with and get on board, and then you've got to actually get those permissions. Then you got to build the trail. You've got to, like in this particular instance, also set up like camping areas and everything, because for a lot of people, this trail is a multi-day kind of thing. It's not like they're whipping one hot lap out there in a day kind of thing. It's like they're going to stop along the way, whether they're hiking, biking, whatnot. So there just wasn't anyone to push it along, until PPORA, really, because PPORA, again, brings together those land managers. It brings together those trail organizations. It brings together stakeholder groups and everything into the same room to discuss things. And then when GOCO came along with the funding, Becky and PPORA put together a grant application to
Becky, the executive director.
Right. Yeah. Sorry.
Becky
Leinweber.
Leinweber.
Yeah. So,
Leinweber.
and wouldn't you know it, we got it because, again, it was on the governor's radar in 2016. It's been talked about. It's definitely one of those things that we know will create a big draw. But there was no one willing to take the ball and run with it kind of thing, And so now we kind of have that.
And I can add a little bit too of, like Trails and Open Space Coalition, I think 5 years ago did a master plan for Ring the Peak, an awesome planning initiative. Yeah. But one of the things that kind of PPORA realized in this planning process for the regional partnership was part of the reason that wasn't moving forward was getting all the land managers in the same room. And so that's been a big piece that we've been able to help kind of push along. And like last year, about 8 of the public land managers came together and wrote a letter of intent to explore what kind of partnership would look like with CPW to help kind of bridge some of those gaps too, which I think has been a pretty crucial piece in moving this conversation forward.
So why is this such a big deal? What is that experience, and what does that mean for our community? Like, who's going to come and do this?
Well, you look at a lot of the places that have a big either cycling or hiking or trail running draw, and they all kind of share in common the fact that they've got some big epic bucket list kind of trail. With Moab, they've got White Rim Trail, which is a 104-mile loop through Canyonlands National Park that's beautiful. I've done it in a day. It's a really long day.
Of course you have.
Yeah.
How many time Ironman triathlete are you?
So it's doable. It's a really long day, but most people camp along the way, and they've got camp areas, and you have to get a permit. But and they've got little pit toilets along the way, and camping areas along the way, and people come from all over the world to do it. Same with, they also have Kokopelli Trail. They're either a start or end point of that. It's a point to point that goes from Fruita to Moab. And that's another one that is an iconic, bucket list kind of trail for people who want to do multiple day, bike packing kind of trip. And then with running, trail running, UTMB, which is one of the world renowned, ultra races that has a trail around Mont Blanc out in France or whatever. So there's these big iconic loop kind of trails or out and backs or whatever. And that's something that brings people out. And then for hikers, Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, these month or 2 month, 3 month kind of long journeys that people go on. All the towns along the way where people stop, and when they're doing these epic, hikes, all receive, a lot of that kind of money from essentially hiking tourism or whatever. The cooler thing about a loop style is you start and finish in the same place. So logistically for people, it's easier. They don't have to find transportation back from the end to where they started or anything. So that's really cool. And it's on a mountain that's really iconic, that is sort of our claim to fame in many ways.
America's mountain.
Right? America's mountain, right? Yeah. So to do a metric century around that on trail is just a super cool thought, that I think will be on a lot of people's radar once it's done. People from all over, not just the U.S. but the world, and it'll be a draw for sure.
So while you can already ride up and down the road, or, for the extreme, double black diamond mountain bikers, you can, pedal down the plummet, right? For mountain bikers. Yeah. How is this different? I mean, this brings out a whole different type of athlete, actually. It's a whole new audience, right?
For sure, yeah. It's for the person who's aspirational. They want something that motivates them to train, that is a goal kind of thing, because it's a physically challenging thing, it's not flat by any stretch of the imagination. It's not all downhill. There's a lot of climbing and descending, all up above 10,000 feet, basically, and multi-user. So, whether you're hiking it, running it, biking it, whatever, it's a challenge. And that's the people that it brings out. And there's a lot of those in outdoor tourism. It's that aspirational part of it. I want to set a goal for myself. It's the same thing, and attracts people to events, like a RAGBRAI or it's I want to set this goal for myself to complete this thing, that's going to be a challenge. And so, and it's the same thing with, the racing that I do and stuff like that. It's you do it because you want to test your limits and set some goals and stuff. So I think that's going to be what the draw is, and the people that it draws,
So I've been saying this because I now own the bicycle resort here for 10 years, and I see the tourists coming to cycle here. And I know that what we already have here, from everybody I've talked to on all the Paddle the Springs podcasts and episodes, everybody says that we are a world-class bike destination. The variety of different types of cycling that you can do here and the different types of trail, the variety of terrains that we have, and then the epic experiences like being able to go up and down Pikes Peak or through Garden of the Gods make us a top tier world-class bike destination. This seems like it's going to make it explode.
Yeah, I mean, this really starts to like galvanize that claim, you know, like, because up until now, yeah, we have a lot of trails for sure and good trails. But when you're talking about like a world class, when you're using that designation and you look at some of the world class places like a Whistler or something like that, or a Moab, you kind of need all of the pieces together, you know, and having one of those epic kind of rides is one of the pieces of the puzzle. That will be cool to finish that out. To get the Quarry Bike Park going would be having a bike park is part of it. We've got a couple pump tracks in town already. That's cool. We've got, you know, plenty of trail that's already rideable. Having a wide swath of different skill levels of trail also, you know, and the accessibility of it we have already, which is great. Most of those destinations you can ride from town. But yeah, getting all of those pieces put together and then promoting it is kind of a big part of the whole, like, actually becoming it, you know?
Promoting it. That's what I'm really big on right now is that, like, I feel like I'm like Horton Hears a Who saying, we are here. You know, it's the little bicycle resort at the base of the mountain. Right. And I would like to get every hotel in town, every business, every event saying, this is a great place to bike, bring your bike, you know, and the more of us that are doing it, the better it will be for our community. Because as you know, what does this do for our economy? Because I like quoting you. You said, I like quoting you. You said if a podunk town like Fruita of $14,000, I'm sorry, Nick. Of 14,000 people in Fruita can bring in like what, 53.2 somewhere around there, $1 million in cycling, you know, related revenue. Imagine how that would scale for a city like Colorado Springs. I mean, talk about that.
I think I said beautiful podunk town is my exact quote. Yeah, maybe. And here's the thing, the advantage that we have, right? Like that a lot of these cycling destinations, like a Moab, a Fruita, Bentonville, they're not that big. They're cool little towns. You know, they've got tons of riding, great riding, but
no place to stay.
Well, yeah. When you think about a cycling tourist and what their day looks like when they're at some place that they're staying, they get up, they go to a coffee shop and buy some coffee and some breakfast or whatever. And then they go ride for a few hours, 2 to 5 hours. And then they're done riding for the day and they got to take up the rest of the day doing something. And there's not a lot else to do in a Moab or a Fruita. It's a tiny place. There's a few restaurants. There's a couple of pubs and whatever and coffee shops. And that's about it. You know, like here, we're a legit city. Like we've got tons of movie theaters and mini golf courses.
Arts.
And we've got art museums and we've got live music venues.
I mean,
all sorts of stuff.
To our Newport Amphitheater.
Right. And we've got, I just was at a concert at Pikes Peak, Center over here like a couple nights ago. And so we have all of this activity stuff already here for people to do. They can go to Garden of the Gods. They can go to the Olympic Museum. They can go all these things and entertain themselves when they're not riding and spend money. Like there's tons of places to spend money.
Yeah. And you didn't even mention the airport. Like, right. I think a lot, like we get compared to, or compare ourselves maybe more to Denver, where the airport to the mountains is what, an hour and a half minimum. Yeah. And here you can hop off a plane and in 45 minutes be at the front gate of the Pikes Peak Highway. Yeah. Like that is a crazy thing that I don't think we tell that story well enough regularly of just like, forget access once you're here. Getting here is easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
our airport. It is so sweet.
It's,
like,
I
oh
would
my
so
goodness.
much rather fly out of there. It's so simple. But that's the thing is like we forget that like bicycle tourists aren't just riding, right? Like they also want to do a ton of other things while they're here. But the cool thing is a bicycle tourist is going to stay for a while. It's not a lot of the tourism stuff that we've focused on as a city, like the Olympic Museum and stuff like that. It's a cool thing and people will come in, but people will drive in, they'll see it, and then they'll keep driving to whatever the next town is to stay the night or whatever. But with cycling tourists, they want to ride all the trail or a lot of the trail. It'd be a real long trip if they're going to ride all the trail here. But so they're going to stay for 4 days, 5 days, a week,
Will they
10
be able
days.
to drop down into like Cripple Creek and stuff, or is that in the
On the Ring to Peak.
like,
On the
is
Ring
it
to Peak,
reachable
yeah.
and things
Yeah,
like that?
absolutely.
Like they're gonna,
Yeah.
And that was a big part of the master plan is like, how do we connect all the communities that are around the peak
Yeah.
to the trail and to each other?
So this would be a big deal for Cripple Creek,
Oh, for sure.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, yeah.
And these bike tourists, they spend, I forget the statistic, somebody did it, but like they spend an average of over $200 a day, I think, like in the communities they stay in, plus
I mean, I heard
plus
that,
hotels
like, they're like,
and stuff.
They're right up there, or they're getting to be right up there with the demographic of a golfer,
Right.
as far as the
Right.
the affluency and
For sure. Yeah.
income of a cyclist.
And a lot of like business people, like high level business people, it used to be they would do business meetings on the golf course or at the tennis court. Now on the bike is very common as well. So you're starting to see, a lot of these high level business people using cycling, and becoming cyclists. And so they generally are fairly affluent and are going to spend a lot of money. And so that's definitely stuff that we need to consider and as a city go, yeah, we want that and go after it, really. That's the thing. Like we have all the components to be that, live up to that, world-class destination kind of, label, but we just gotta as a city get behind that a little bit and finish this Ring the Peak so that we can that piece of the puzzle get the bike park.
You
in
did
the
talk
quarry.
about the quarry.
Yeah,
tell me about that. Either one of you, because this grant actually also helps fund the quarry as well, or work on the quarry, or
Not this grant specifically,
Okay.
but so this grant is in support of this regional vision plan that PPORA wrote, and one of the projects is this downhill mountain bike park, and so with the quarry, it goes back to our partnerships.
we like to call it the SCAR, if you're not familiar.
Yeah,
but-
it does.
Yeah.
It's interesting. One of the things I learned this last year is that the number one quality of life factor here in Colorado Springs is the scenic beauty. But then we have this giant scar on one side of our mountains. But this bike park, like the dream, the vision in my head is like, how do we have this awesome downhill area that also connects to Ring the Peak, to all these other trails, and in a lot of ways could be like a ski village, right? Like, what if people are coming downhill, or we have a lift there, and then they come out and there's like a bike shop and some restaurants and a cafe right at the bottom.
That's
like that
what
is
I see.
incredible, right? Like, and that project is still moving, and there's still a lot to get done. Like, it is early stages, but
I
it's
heard
an
it could be
incredible
done
idea.
in like 5 years. That the reclamation's already been done. Is that right or wrong?
So the reclamation's already been done. The next steps, I think, the city is still figuring out if they can take over the land in terms of management, and then there's going to be some more public engagement, and so that's really the next steps I know. Which because this is my job, I'm like next steps day to day, right? But
there's some wild stories out there, right? I mean, but they may or may not be true. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah.
Like a lift up there.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see, right?
So there's a lot of right? There is a vision for it. There's a lot of figuring out the details still to do. And there's a lot of folks that are much more in the day-to-day, like medicine wheel trail advocates. They know a lot more than I do about what is the most current information. But I know, like, in the next, near future, there's definitely gonna be more opportunities for the public to engage with that, figure out what we really want.
So
there.
what all does the grant cover? And what is, like, do we have an estimated or goal timeline? I mean, I guess it's just impossible to know when you're dealing with land managers and stakeholders how long that would take. But, there has to be some workabouts or anything like that to actually make it happen.
Yeah, so the grant is a 3-year grant, and within it, there's a whole lot of pieces. The big ones are an outdoor ambassador program, so really people on the ground helping educate people how to take care of the trails we have and the recreation assets, ranging from climbing to OHV to biking. Like, how can we get all of the user groups informed about what goes on out there and what the different land managers expect and stuff like that. There's trail improvements. There's going to be the first trailhead for Ring the Peak in Ute Pass with El Paso County. And then, like you said earlier, Nick, there's going to be some camping development, both hopefully on the Ring the Peak Trail, but then also adjacent to it as kind of spurs or connectors in Fremont County, which will be really cool. And I'm sure there's more, and there's a whole lot of details in there, but those are the big things around Ring the Peak of, like, what is the next steps to move that forward.
Now, you guys have a very exciting new addition to the PPORA team. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Nick Reagan of Switchbacks fame.
He helped start the whole thing.
Yeah, he started it with the family, and they got to
our downtown soccer stadium and like world-class
recent national champs. Yeah. And he joined the team also just about last month, and so he's still drinking from a fire hose. But one of the things he said when he was looking to sell the Switchbacks was really, we're a family. I'm an individual who wants to build things, and so when he moved on from the Switchbacks, PPORA and Becky had been talking to him about, well, what's the next thing you want to build? And why isn't it outdoor recreation? Why isn't it, biking? Why isn't it all these other outdoor things? And so he joined the team just last month, and we're really excited to have him and getting him up to speed and getting him out there and helping us tell this vision, tell this story about the amazing things we have here and getting the word out.
What is the role? What's the title?
Yeah, Director of Strategic Development. Okay. So, big corporate words in my mind, but really being strategic about how we tell the stories here and how we move some of these things forward.
Yeah, and I think his experience and knowledge and connections from the Switchbacks and that whole thing are going to be super, super helpful to kind of connect the right people together. And he's a smart guy, and he's going to add a lot of value and have a lot of helpful advice and connections and stuff that I think will help get this moving forward for sure.
And one of the things I was talking to him about just yesterday, and I love it when he talks about this, is the reason he built the Switchbacks was to give the community something to be proud of. And that's really what I see with Ring the Peak, with outdoor recreation here in the Springs, is not only how can we bring these world-class athletes here, how can we bring these, endurance cyclists, endurance runners, superstar climbers, whoever they may be, but how can we also give the community something that we're really proud of, that we want to scream from the rooftops. Yeah. This is our home. This is what we love. This is who we are.
Yeah. This is what makes those people want to move here.
Exactly.
In addition to vacation here, once you come, it's like, it's hard to want to go anywhere. I mean, I stayed. Came for a visit, left with a house. So like, what next? How does somebody what do you guys need? What do you need from the community to help support this?
Yeah, I mean, I think being excited about it is the first big thing. Like, if you are excited about it, talking about it, that just puts kind of the word out there more, both with our partners, with land managers, of just like, we're excited about this as a community. I think if you can connect with any of our partners or just with PPORA, like my email is somewhere on our website. Please reach out to me if you have any questions.
What's the website?
PPORA.org. Yeah, pretty simple. like we're happy to get you connected with whichever partners you resonate with most, whether that's trail work and you want to get connected with RIMFI or, you know, any of our biking organizations or whoever, helping just figure out what those specific parts are. As PPORA, like I said, we bring everyone together. So we're also looking at all the projects going on. So sometimes we've got this 30,000 foot view, and I always am sad when people come to me and are like, how can we help can we volunteer? Do you have volunteer days? And I'm like, well, that's not really our role, but I know people who have volunteer days, right? So that's the big thing. Just keep talking about it, be excited, and follow up with Trails and Open Space Coalition, RIMFI, MedWheel, Cosimba, Nick, me, whoever, anyone that you know that's doing outdoor stuff, and keep supporting the things that you're excited about.
Yeah.
Where does $2.5 million fall in the need to actually do the project and complete it?
Yeah. That's
Because it sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
You know.
It is a lot of money, but it's also a drop in the bucket when it comes to it. You know, a lot of it depends on crazy things like cost of materials for trail building, or trail builders are, you know, every year it becomes more expensive because of trying to pay people fair wages, which is a good thing. I'm not complaining about that. But then materials are expensive, and so it changes all the time. But even with that grant, we already have, you know, at least $2.5 million in match funding. So we're looking at $5-6 million in investment just for the few projects in here, and it's going to take a lot more than that to complete the whole ring. So it's going to take a lot, but it's not, you know, that could be scary or it could be exciting of like, we are getting the investment started. A lot of people are excited about this. A lot of people want to help this, and really just keeping that ball moving is the next big piece.
Yeah, I think the grant, it kind of just creates that snowball effect, you know, like the momentum, like that grant then gets some matching funds, and then when people see how big the pool's getting, they are willing to contribute much more when they see, hey, we might actually get there, you know, like, and so it can create that momentum that's needed. And then another place people can plug in is really when public feedback is asked for, show up and give some in support, you know, like, because there will be a lot of like public engagement as they go to complete some of these sections and all that kind of stuff, and the connectivity we're talking about, and like quarry and everything else. Like, you want to engage and in support of, because there will be naysayers that come along because it ruins the view out their back window or whatever of the scar, and it's like, and things like that, where it or causes traffic on their street or whatever. So there will be people who get all angry about it, and they're going to voice their opinion for sure. But if we can get a lot more in support, that's helpful, and that's an easy way to like help. And then to make those funds go further, if some of these trail organizations can drum up more volunteers so that it is cheaper for them to build these sections of trails that we need to complete, that brings the cost down, right? Like, so when we get to the point where we're putting shovels in dirt, you know, like, if you can come out and be a volunteer, if you've got the time, if you want to help, yeah, absolutely, get out there. And like with MedWheel, Cosimba, with RIMFI, those three organizations in particular are definitely going to be, you know, looking for volunteers and having volunteer days and stuff. So definitely.
I do think it's the community understanding the economics behind it, because it's not just for bicyclists. I mean, these the economic impact of these changes will be huge for our communities, because you see how, like, I can't afford to buy a place in Bentonville or Fruita now, because, you know, like, and so it's great for the economy. It's great for everyone. And, you know, I'm on the board of Visit Colorado Springs, and there's a campaign right now, like, tourism pays, like, you know, I mean, that's how we have nice things in our community. And speaking of the board, we had Nick Reagan, that he came and spoke to our board this week. And one of the things that he talked about was like, one of his jobs is just to go start knocking on the doors of those, of the stakeholders that I don't know if anybody's, actually knocked on the doors and said, can we please, Is that true?
Well, I think there's
Do you need more door knockers? I'll come and knock on doors with you.
There's different pieces to it, but I think that, this whole process of the last few years has been a lot of doing that, but then there's always more to be done, especially when you start talking about like there's portions of the Ring the Peak that may or may not have to go over private property. And that's like some of the engagement that we haven't done, but it's because we want to be really sure that we're ready. And then we also have the backing of land managers to say, this might be a trail through, the back portion of your property, but we have a really solid management plan so that you're not going to be in trouble if something happens. So don't go knocking on strangers' doors quite yet. But like Nic has said, and I've said of like
maybe at the base scar.
No, but like we said, just keep in the loop with the organizations that are doing this work, because when it is time to knock on doors, they're going to be the ones that are going to be looking for volunteers for help doing that.
Are these organizations also facing like cutbacks and funding at all? Like, is it more important than ever to really jump in as community support for a lot of these?
There definitely is some. I think right with this big grant, PPORA is lucky because that's GoCo funding, which has been pretty secure. But just with everything going on, there's always, a little bit of uncertainty, and some organizations are hit far worse than others. Like youth corps, I know for sure, which are big volunteer force or big trail building force across Colorado, were hit hard by some of the federal cuts. So definitely be aware that some organizations maybe are doing better than others, but there's definitely a lot that needs some pretty urgent support right now.
For sure. Yeah. I think just the last few years, like the nonprofit sector and any government connected organization both have like experienced like drops in funding, because everyone's kind of feeling the squeeze a little bit economically, I think. And so fewer people are giving money, but if you can, definitely do. I think it's super important now more than ever, like, especially as we're building this momentum, the last thing we want is it to peter out because we can't get enough funding to these organizations that can do the actual labor, right? And make it happen and stuff. And so I would love to see some of these organizations have funding pouring in so that they can like really have the bandwidth to do the things that are needed.
Yeah. And Colorado Springs is really special when it comes to that. Like, I've heard facts. I haven't fact checked some of these, but like the strength of the nonprofits here, the strength of the volunteers here, in terms of how many, but also in terms of just like the work that we're doing is pretty incredible. And it's a special place to know that the nonprofits here are really, really putting as much money as they can towards programs and on the ground work. The volunteers are super dedicated and abundant. Like, all of that's sounds pretty good, but it never hurts to have more, right? Like, there's a lot of good things going on, and the snowball effect of like the more that we can add to that snowball, the more momentum we have, the more that we're going to be able to get done.
Yeah.
So it's like ppora.org, medwheel.org, trails and open spaces.org, rimfee.org, right?
I think so, yeah.
We'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah, let's put them in the show notes. I don't want to misquote any of those.
Anything else, guys?
No, thank you for having us. This is awesome. And
I mean, I've never been this excited in winter about cycling in the Colorado Springs, other than the fact that we're having an amazing winter. But, this is probably the most exciting thing that's happened in the winter to get me excited about biking. And, I think I would put that on my list for things that I want to do is take on that trail. So
for sure.
I'm stoked.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm stoked.
Can't wait.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you so much. It was an
Thanks
awesome
for having
time.
us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was great.
And thank you for watching and listening to the Pedal the Springs podcast, brought to you by the Buffalo Lodge Bicycle Resort, the only bike-themed lodging in Colorado Springs in the Pikes Peak region. I think the U.S. maybe, I don't know. Anyway, be sure to check out the show links for things that we talked about in this episode and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Also, to be sure to check out the other great podcasts at Studio 809 Podcast Collective. We're coming to you from the Studio 809 podcast studio at the Next Us, a professional cooperative environment for small businesses in Colorado Springs. See you next time.